It is now 5 o'clock. It is good to have everybody. If we could have our teachers come to the front, please. Again, so good to have everybody here tonight. Corey, could we maybe bring this thing down just a little bit? I got a big old roar happening. I was thinking on the way here tonight that it's been a long time. Now, I really appreciated our family class and so many things that are going on, but it has been such a long time since I have anticipated and looked forward to a class like I am this class, this Boundaries class. I don't know many people who, through their life or in their life, at one time or another, has not wanted to say, whoa. And instead we said, let's kick it and keep on going. And then we ended up crashing and burning. And we would have been a lot better off if we would have learned how to say, I'm sorry, I'm not available. Or I'm sorry, I'm not going to get involved in that. And so what happens to a lot of us is because we have big hearts and because we love people, we go ahead and take on tasks that we should have never said yes to. Anybody in that category? That's why you're here tonight. That's right. So we're going to have a word of prayer, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to say before we get started, and before we even pray, that tonight is going to be just a tad bit different in that instead of moving right into the book, I have asked Jason to share with us his testimony. Now, this will not be happening every week, but I wanted to make sure that all of you know that every single teacher that is going to be teaching in this class promises to become very transparent. Sometimes you may even wonder, I cannot believe they're sharing that. But for 27 years, if you know anything about Pastor Randy, you know he is sometimes uncomfortably transparent. If you do not know that, just watch Lisa's face at times while I preach. I have heard many, many times that people say, I basically come to church only to watch Pastor Lisa. But how in the world can we teach and how in the world can we get the message across if you don't know that we go through the same things that you do? This class and these teachers have been hand-chosen by myself. Hand-chosen, hand-picked. So every one of them have got something to offer, and every one of them are going to be tremendously transparent. That is not for you to judge us. It is for you to know that we're in the same level as you are. We need the same help that you do. And so together, we're going to make a difference in all of our lives. There's a great thing happening at New Beginnings, a wonderful, wonderful thing happening at New Beginnings. And that is we are growing, but not only numerically are we growing, but the people who are here are growing. And we appreciate that so very, very much. I'm hoping at the end we have time for questions. If not, if we get to 6 o'clock, and we're still going, then let's maybe take it right there at 6 o'clock and open it up. We're doing our best to try to get in here at 5 and out by 6 to honor your time. But I want to also make sure that if you have questions, that we're able to respond to those questions. Okay? All right, let's have a word of prayer. Father, thank you for this time that you've given us. We want you to know that we love you and appreciate you. You are a great God and worthy to be praised. I love you. I appreciate you. Be with our teachers tonight. Help them, move within them, and whatever they do, may they push towards helping somebody else. I love you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Just before they get started, turn around to somebody and say, I'm glad you're here. Tell them they look good. Tell them they're lovely. Whatever you want to tell them. But let them know you're glad they're here. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. You got your mics?
Am I on? Can you hear me? How you guys doing this evening? Is anybody as nervous as I am? So for these of you that don't know me, my name's Jason Miller. For those of you who do, you're probably just as shocked as I am that I'm up here. So the purpose of this Boundaries class is obviously not for me to stand up here and preach down at you, but I'll let you know I've been in the trenches too. So, and hopefully if we can realize you're in the same spot, or I've been in the same spot you are, maybe it'll help you get out of whatever trench you're in. So, because I believe to be able to reach somebody, you have to meet them where they are and have some shared feelings and experiences, emotions, circumstances. So I'm going to open this up by giving my story from my childhood and tell you where I've come from and what I've been through and where I've ended up. So my earliest memories I can remember, I was about 4 years old. We lived in Madras in a little tiny single-wide trailer. For one of the houses today, about 35, 40 foot long. We had no running water, we had no electricity, and a literal outhouse outside. My most vivid memory there at 4, which I can still look today, is of my dad dragging my mom around by her hair and beating her up. That scene played out multiple times through my childhood until I was 9 and my parents got divorced. I've seen bowls and plates of food smashed up against walls. I've seen entire kitchens cleaned out. Every dish in the house broke. Everything you imagine go through living room windows, so it was a very tumultuous childhood. And it was all out of a drunken fit of rage by my dad. So when I was 9, my parents got divorced and we moved to Sisters, Oregon, and with my grandma, my aunt, and my cousin. That was the only sense of stability I had as a child, and it was short-lived at about 5 years. And after my parents divorced, I saw my mom once a year for a week in the summertime, and she called us twice a year, once on birthday and once on Christmas. My birthday's October 26th, so she wasn't really part of a presence in our lives at all. So my grandma, she was a devout, God-fearing Christian woman with a backbone of steel, and between her and my aunt is where I got my foundation into Christianity and faith. The Bible says to plant the seed. That's what my aunt and my grandma did. The Bible says to raise a child in the way of the Lord, and when they're older, they will not depart. It may have taken over 3 decades, but I'm living proof of that promise. I was baptized first time when I was 10, and then again, Becky and I got baptized on July 10th of 2023. It was our 25th wedding anniversary, and it was just before she went in for brain tumor surgery. When I was 14, we moved out of my grandma's house and down to Scales, California, where my dad took a timber falling job. That was the end of my Christian walk for about 33 years. Becky and I have tried churches over the years. I don't know if we didn't feel comfortable, weren't ready, or whatever. Didn't feel at home until we found New Beginnings. What got me back into church is in September 2020, it was the height of COVID. Businesses were being forced closed, jobs were being lost, people were being thrown in jail for trying to survive. Churches were being closed, and the kids were out of school, and there was this enormous push for the abortion on demand and the LGBTQ and the transgender nonsense. All these draconian measures were being implemented, and all of a sudden, the book of Revelation came back to me from when I was a kid. The one that sticks out the most is in the end days, what is right is wrong, what wrong will seem right. And I felt that's exactly what was going on. I told Becky, I said, we need to go back to church. She's like, hey, you're going crazy. And then I went and immediately bought us some Bibles, and she goes, yep, he's gone. Told you you'd intervene. Now back down to moving down to Scales, California. It was an old mining town north of Marysville, California. We moved into a luxurious 4-man tent in the middle of the woods. There we stayed for about 3 months. My dad was a firm believer that houses were just a fueling station and weren't worth the money. So the houses we would get into, people would wonder if they were going to fall down in the middle of the night. They were shacks. From this point through the next 4 years, that was my hell on earth. If I jump back a little bit for context, I learned how to drive when I was 8 years old. By the time I was 10, I was pretty confident. Well, for a 10-year-old, I guess. Coincidentally, at 10 years old is also the first time I sat in a bar parking lot for hours waiting for my dad to get drunk so I could drive him home and he wouldn't get a DUI. When we moved down to Scales, California, that practice intensified greatly. Multiple times a week, we would sit in bar parking lots for 8 to 10, 12 hours at a time, wait for my dad to get drunk so we could drive him home and he wouldn't get a DUI. Once in a while, the bartenders would feel sorry for us and let us come in the bar and play pool till we left. So I was a bar fly at a very young age. One night, my dad got in a fight. My dad was a timber faller. He was big and tough and didn't think anybody would whoop him until somebody whooped him. And then we got in trouble because we didn't jump into a man's fight as children in a bar and help him out and protect him. One other instance, my dad decided he wanted to go down to Grass Valley, California. He'd heard of a restaurant. One of his buddies told him about it. It's supposed to be great. And we're like, woohoo, we get to eat today. So we couldn't go anywhere without my dad getting drunk first. So throughout the day, he drank and got drunk and decided we wanted to take off. He let my older brother drive that was 15 at the time. And so he didn't get a DUI. Well, as it turns out, my older brother was a really terrible driver, and they thought he was drunk, so we got pulled over. At the conclusion of that night, my dad went to jail, and we went to a foster home. Also at 14 was the closest I ever came to trying drugs. Can you tell I'm nervous? Or just me? Anyway, at 14 was the closest I ever came to trying drugs. Went over to a friend's house. I always said we moved on the hill. The hill that we lived on was because everybody that was up there for the most part tried to stay away from the cops. So there were druggies, there were alcoholics, they were the hill. So I went over to my friend's house, and obviously when your parents do it, eventually the kids start doing it. So I went over to my friend's house and I sat on his couch and we were talking. Well, he'd walked in the kitchen and he brought out this, those old wooden tea trays with handles. And he set it down in front of me and it's full of crank. Well, we called it crank then, it's called meth now. What the difference is, I have no idea. So I immediately lost my place is what I did. But I immediately started trembling on the inside because I'd never done drugs before. Apparently it wasn't just on the inside because he looked at me and goes, "You've never done this before, have you?" And I said, "No." And he picked it up and took it back to the kitchen and he says, "Don't start now." That was the best advice I ever got from a drug addict. And I can proudly say I've still never done drugs today. I played sports in school. That was what kept me out of trouble, baseball in particular. We rode the activities bus home after practice, but when we had a game, then parents had to come to school to pick you up, and we lived 60 miles from the school. So we went most of the way up to our house that stopped in Challenge, California. When we lived above it, my dad had come down to get me, and that didn't happen very often. So I had a friend that lived in Challenge, and his mom seen what was going on, and she just told me, "If your dad doesn't show up, my door's open. Come in." Didn't matter what time of day or night. 15, we lived in a house in Strawberry, California, which is still another little town up on the hill. I came home from school with a note on the counter from my dad. They just read, "I moved to Arizona. I'll call you when I can." As a dad, that's just unthinkable to me. Anyways, I think it was like the next day I was outside and I'd worked at a hotel restaurant up in LaPorte, California, which is I think 8-10 miles up the road. Anyway, the owner come down, his name was Randy. He had seen me outside and stopped and talked for a second. He said, "Hey, where's your dad?" And I said, "He took off to Arizona." Then he just looked at me, he says, "Go get your stuff and get in the truck." He took me up to the hotel, gave me a room and board and $25 a day and let me stay there. I can tell you many instances I had to live or stay with somebody else due to my dad just getting drunk and not showing up. I'd stay with a lot of different people growing up, depending on where we lived geographically on the hill. And I thank God somebody always stepped up. Jumping up to when I was 16, almost 17, we were at an away baseball game. And we just got back and our parents had to pick us up. So all the parents were picking their kids up, and it was me and Jason McVeigh. He was my friend at the time. Everybody left, it's me and him. His dad pulled in, and Jason got in the car, and I just rolled down the window, and he says, "Is your parents on the way, son?" And out of humiliation, embarrassment, maybe both, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll be here in a minute." And then I already knew my dad wasn't coming at that point. We were 60 miles away from home. We didn't have cell phones. I had nobody to call. I had nowhere to go. And so I took my only option, and I crawled under the bleachers of the baseball field to go to sleep. You can say that is as close to being homeless as I've ever been. About that time, the car started pulling back in the parking lot. And I don't know if you know anything about bleachers. They have all these X's and stuff like that, and you don't want to see anybody catch you under there, and you're hitting your head and trying to get out. It's just out of sheer humiliation. So I got out, and it was my friend Jason McVeigh and his dad. And his dad just rolled down the window and just said, "Get in the car, son." And I said, "Yes, sir." I stayed with them for the rest of that year. It was between 4, 5, 6 months. And it took me a month and a half to get a hold of my dad. The only way for me to get a hold of him was to call the bars he frequented. And so it took me, like I say, month and a half, finally got a hold of him. At that time, I was scared I was going to get in trouble because I'd been gone so long, and had a whole planned dialogue. And I don't even think I got through the first sentence. He just cut me off. He goes, "Hey, I wasn't worried. If something bad would have happened, I'd have heard about it." What I find most remarkable about Roy and Laura McVeigh, Roy was a cop in Marysville, California. He was in a high-speed chase, got hurt. He was out of work, and I worked in comp. Laura worked in the schools. Somehow she'd hurt her back. She was also out of work and on workman's comp. Looking back, I can imagine they got to be struggling financially. They got a house, they got a car, they got 3 kids. And with nothing but grace and mercy in their heart, they still took in this 6'6" baby giraffe. The next summer, I moved back in with my mom. To say I was ecstatic and elated would have been an understatement. Just a release of pressure. You didn't have to worry about where your next meal came from. You didn't have to worry if you have a roof over your head or not. You might actually get nice clothes for the first time in my life. So I was there about 2 weeks, and she came into my room, and she goes, "Hey, sit down, I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." She goes, "I applied for this job on Johnson Island 9 months ago." And I'm like, "She finally called me." And I don't know if I had a look on my face, but her demeanor changed immediately. And she goes, "Well, I know you just moved in, so if you don't want me to go, I won't." And at that time, going through the stuff I'd went through, probably kind of hard, lacking on feelings. And I said, "I don't care, Mom, do what you want." So she did. And then I'd go find somebody else to move in with that would take care of me. 17. I thought I'd moved on and buried a lot of this baggage, buried it deep for over 30 years. And then it all came flooding back one day. My brother and I were talking about our childhood or whatever, and learned some stuff I didn't know. It kind of broke me. And so my brother says, "Hey, maybe we ought to go back down there and check that place out again." Now for me, that was my hell on earth. I never wanted to step foot in that place. I thought maybe he needed it for closure. So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." This is exactly like I thought. Brought up a lot of stuff. So I got to thinking about the McVeighs and stuff again, and what they'd done to me, because statistically speaking, I probably shouldn't be here today. So I decided I'd try and find them. So I got on this people search online, and I shouldn't say this, but I drive semi for a living, and I'm on semi back and forth. As I'm driving, I found a Roy and Laura McVeigh that was in New Mexico, Farmville or something like that. And so they had an email for Carrie McVeigh, which is the youngest daughter, and they had a phone number for Laura McVeigh, which is the mom. I instantly went back into my 16, 17-year-old self, fear of rejection and abandonment. What if they didn't remember me? What if they didn't want to remember me? What if they want to talk to me? And so it took me quite a while, and I finally decided to email Carrie McVeigh. I just told her, hey, my name's Jason Miller. If I got the right McVeigh family, I'd have lived with you guys. You guys took me in. And the whole time I'm going back and forth, driving down all over the road. Hope I don't kill anybody and never get a response. And so I finally got the courage and I called the number. And a gentleman answered the phone. And I kind of like imitate Roy because he's one of those, got a real brash voice, just sounds like he's mad all the time. So Roy answered the phone. Hello? I'm like, hey, is this Roy McVeigh? Yeah, who's this? And I'm like, this is Jason Miller. He's all, who? I'm like, this is Jason Miller. And I went through my whole spiel. If I had the right McVeigh family, you'd have lived with me. He goes, sorry, son, you got the wrong number. I'm like, well, sir, I'm very sorry to bug you. I hope you have a great night. He's all, hold on. He goes, I'm just messing with you. How the heck are you doing? What I didn't know at the time, that I knew now, is that they did get the email, just hadn't got responded to yet. So I talked to him for quite a while, and 30-some years to catch up on. So I talked to him for quite a while, and when I got in just thanking him for what they did to me, he got uncomfortable, and, well, you were just a good kid. No, you man, Laura's going to love to talk to you. So shoved me off to Laura, and Laura and I talked for another probably 45 minutes, and it was the same thing. And then when I got to, just telling him how much I appreciate him, she tells me, she goes, Jason, I accepted you as my son a long time ago. She goes, nothing's changed. Kind of broke down like I am now. I didn't know I needed to hear that from her. I don't know why I did, but clearly I did. I believe that's where my healing began. Healed? No. But 3 years later, I'm standing up here telling my story, so I'm a work in progress. If you look back at my story, you can see that I lived a childhood of being rejected, abandoned, kicked to the curb, and it wasn't by the world. Unfortunately, it was by my parents. But you can also see that at every point of desperation, at that moment, God always put somebody there to help me out. One of the big things I've learned through trying to deal with this is the things that have scarred you for life do not have to define you for life. Us humans, we're kind of funny, emotional little creatures. We like to hold on to the grievances of what people have done wrong to us. And I think we do this probably because we're a little weak on faith. Christ requires us to take one step, and that's the first step. That's a step of faith. It's to bring it to the altars, leave it at his feet, and let it go and walk away. The Bible tells us by his stripes we are healed, and by the shedding of his blood we are set free. His stripes mean every time a Roman soldier whipped him and tore flesh from his body. And that is a sacrifice he chose to take for us, so we didn't have to carry it, and he would. As Christians, we need to quit playing the victim card and start playing the freedom card. Because of his sacrifice, we are truly set free from the baggage. Then I pulled up a couple of verses. So there's Isaiah 53, 4 and 5. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was a chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. And then Matthew 6, 25 and 26, it says, Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you of not more value than they? I'm a pretty simple-minded guy. But what those verses tell me is Christ already has our baggage. The problem is we don't want to let go of it. We hold on to it as tight as we can, kicking and screaming, flopping around like a fish out of water. Just saying, but God, have you not seen what they did to me? I can just imagine God looking at us and saying, do you not remember what you did to me? And I forgave you anyway. So let it go. You know that free gift we got called grace? We didn't earn, we didn't deserve. We got it anyway and got forgiven. I think God just wants to take that free gift we got that we didn't earn and we didn't deserve. He wants to hand it to those people in our lives, still don't earn it, still don't deserve it, and give it to them anyway and forgive them. The problem is the more emotions we put into the people that have grieved us, the more time we put in them, the less time we put into Christ. And more of that garbage we keep in our lives, the less room there is for Christ to work in it. You always hear people say all the time, oh, I got walls up here and walls up there, which is true, we do it all the time. The problem with walls is they're dangerous. They're like these, nothing gets in, nothing gets out, which means nothing changes. We should have more like boundaries, should be more like a fence with a gate. We need to be able to open it up, let our garbage out, fill it in with Christ to get the vacuum. Walls are dangerous for us if they hurt us emotionally, which leads to physically. Most importantly, they hurt us spiritually. Anybody been there? Been rejected and abandoned and kicked to the curb? It's hard to let it go. It hurts. Once again, the Bible tells us we just got to take the one step. Put it at the feet of Jesus and let it go. I can give you just a quick couple instances how, well, I believe you have two choices in life. You can either repeat the cycle that was done to you that you hated so much, that hurt you so much, or you can break that cycle. Do a little more Christ-like direction. I have a couple quick instances probably that helped me break that cycle. One was when my son was born, my firstborn. The moment I saw him, it was a love I'd never felt before. I promised God right there that I'd be a good dad. My kids would never go through what I went through. They would never know that feeling of rejection and abandonment. And about 3.5 years later, Becky and I got together, and she had 2 kids, Kristen and Marcus, 5 and 6. And their dad wasn't a part of their lives. He'd walked out on them. And so I adopted them. And then 4 or 5 years later, I got to meet my daughter for the first time. She was 9 years old. Becky and I jumped in that little girl's life as much as we could. Every 2 to 3, she lives in Washington. We live down here. We're up there every 2 to 3 months. We're up there for birthdays and Christmases and gave her first car and helped her when she got on her own. For me, I never wanted my kids to ask those questions I've asked my whole life. Why wasn't I good enough? What was wrong with me? Why didn't my dad love me? So hopefully that's how I did it. Now on to my dad. My dad got sick. He smoked 3 packs a day for 50 years, had like 13 or 19% of his lungs that worked. They found him on the floor, unconscious in his house. They took him to the hospital. I put him on life support, waiting for the family to come down. They said there was nothing they could do. And everybody come down in 3 days, nothing had changed, no levels, no nothing. So I told him to take him off. He didn't want to be on there. So we went out of the room. They took him off life support. We all came back in, just watched him die, I guess. And it was about 20 or 30 minutes later, and all of a sudden my dad says, marijuana. I'm like, what? He's all, marijuana. I'm like, you want some? He's all no, and he's kind of trying to point up on the wall. Jeopardy was on the TV as answering the questions. Wouldn't you know it if you got it right? You know, at some point, we went back in the waiting room, and well, they were working on her son, and we were all standing around, and my grandma, his mom, she's all, well, if he might get out of here, somebody's got to take him in and take care of him. You want to talk about the most dead, awkward silence I've ever seen? Everybody's looking, hey, look at the dead birds. Nobody's saying a word, and The problem is my dad, unfortunately, was so selfish and such a big pain in the butt. Nobody in the family wanted to take care of him. Then we heard the voice of reason. I call her Becky. She's my wife. And she goes, well, we have room. We can take him in. Tell you what, if looks could kill, that woman had been dead right then. In my head, I'm like, shut your face, abort, no. What are you talking about? But he moved in with us, and we took care of him for 3 years. Huh? Yeah, he's lived with us a couple of times. I only say that to revert back to what I said earlier about that free gift of grace. My dad didn't earn it. He didn't deserve it, but he still got it. You say, have you been holding on to your baggage for a long time and it affects your life and it affects your marriage and it affects your relationships? If it affects your relationship with God and you're tired, it starts here. If you want to have solid biblical boundaries, you have to let the baggage go. In closing, I'll tell you a quote that I heard. It was from Erica Kirk after Charlie got murdered. And they were asking her how she stays so strong and forgives the killer and does all this. And her response was, I might be the only Bible somebody reads. So, in saying that, I would say if you're the only Bible somebody reads, you need to be authentic. You need to be intentional. And everything you do, you got to do it with purpose because somebody's always watching you. If you look at some human studies, which for some reason I did, human relation studies, it shows that on average each one of us have about 7 people that watch us every single day in everything we do. So the question we need to ask ourselves is when we're out there in public, at work, and we're at the store, and people are watching us, what are they reading? Thank you.
He was supposed to go 40 to 50 minutes so that I wouldn't have to talk. 30. Still good. Still good. We'll definitely have time for some questions afterwards, and we'll let Pastor go ahead and open up how he wants to do that. But there's a couple things I want to discuss real quick. First off, something that you said, Jason, that I think is very important that we remember or keep in our mind as we go through this boundaries course is boundaries, as you said in the stages of the book, should be more like fences and not like walls. When we set boundaries, it's important that we take care of ourselves. It's important that we have self-health, but it's also important that we don't turn into a selfish person. And when we create walls, we cut ourselves off from everyone else and we become a selfish person to where now it's only about me and I can't see what's happening outside of my own little world. When we create a fence, I can see through the fence, and then it's easier for me to see what someone else may or may not need and how I can do something for them, and then open up the gate to that fence and either let something out or let something in. It still protects us. It still protects us, but it allows us to be more interactive and aware of what other people need. And I think that's something as we go through this, it's very, very important that we remember. Boundaries can sometimes be a bad word because it winds up we just get so, well, I have boundaries, and then we wind up becoming a selfish person, and we've cut everybody else off. But going for the next couple minutes, when we sat down and kind of discussed your story, the three of us, there was a question that I had asked that I'm going to ask again for the sake of everybody that's here tonight. And that question is, your story, how did that affect you in your life and either setting or not setting boundaries?
I've said many times that what I learned from my parents is how not to be a parent. And I pretty much did everything different as much as I could.
So I'm going to ask you, because you had the answer. Sorry. So when we had talked, you had explained to me that, so I don't want to answer it, but how it affected his life and your life, because of all of what he had gone through, what that related to with the boundaries piece of it. Do you remember?
I do. He's always there to help people.
That was my
Sorry.
boundary, is that I didn't have any. It's hard for me to say no.
He said that if people wouldn't have stopped and helped him, he would have been homeless. And so he stops and helps everybody. It doesn't matter what we're doing, what time of day, any of that. He will stop and help anybody in any time of the day. I mean, one guy broke down and we never met this guy. We go and we get a trailer and tow him home, and they talk every once in a while. Now, you know, you just meet people from it, but he will drop anything to help anybody, because he learned that that he didn't have that help with all the people, and it was multiple times growing up. Then he wouldn't, like you said, he doesn't know where he would be. So.
And I point that out, or I wanted you to bring that out, because again, as we go through this, sometimes it will seem, especially because I believe everybody in here, we're good Christian folks who want to help the world, who want to help people. Not all of us have a story like Jason has shared, where we have this compelling to help people because we wanted people to help us. But we'll become super zealous or I got to do things for God and for people. And so it winds up to where we have zero boundaries, which is very detrimental. And when looking at Jason's life and Becky's life, I think anybody that knows you would say you're probably one of the best people we've ever met. I mean, really, you do go out of your way for anybody, and you're always so willing to just help and always so willing to help. But it's easy for us to be taken advantage of because we're so easy to help.
And that happens a lot.
And that happens a lot, which from Becky's reaction, I think we all kind of gathered that happens a lot. And so, go ahead.
It took me a long time to realize why he was that way, because he had put all that stuff back. I didn't even know this stuff until about 5 years ago. I knew none of this. Little bits and pieces, but not to the extent to what he just told you guys. And now, instead of getting upset because our plans have to get canceled because he needed to help somebody, I understand why he's doing it. And it helped a lot knowing his past, and it made us stronger, you know, made me understand, like, why he is the way he is. And so helpful all the time.
I don't envy you or you. Not all of us have a story like Jason's story. And we'll talk about it more, and perhaps you can come and open it up for some questions and how you want to direct that. But not all of us have a story like Jason's story, but all of us have a reason as to why we have either not put up any boundaries at all, or why we have built walls. We all have a past. We all have an ideology. We all have things that come to mind that cause us to either have no boundaries or to put up walls. And as we work through this over the course of the next several weeks, hopefully we'll get to a place where, as Jason was saying, regardless of what our past is, we move to a place where we can be healthy individuals who have boundaries that are good boundaries, where we're building fences and not building those walls. And as we move through this, regardless of where we come from, regardless of the things that have or have not happened in our life, the goal is for all of us to be healthier and to be able to build fences, not walls. I don't want to set a precedent for the entire next few weeks, but if we can just kind of maybe make that our mantra, I'm building fences, not walls. That's healthy, not detrimental to me or somebody else. I'm building fences, not walls. Does that make sense? Pastor?
Going to find in the next several weeks with some of the teachers that we have, again, they have been hand chosen, And you're going to find out that there are some of them, if not many, that have some stories that are heart-wrenching. The reason I chose some of these is to make sure that all of us know we are not the only ones that have went through horrible times in our lives. Sometimes I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty well sure that all of us at times may wonder, am I the only person who has ever been through anything like this? And nobody else will understand when I begin to bear what it is that I have been through. You would be amazed as I look across this group tonight. You would be amazed at how many of you, I guarantee you, have looked and listened to Jason tonight and said, oh my God, I'm not the only one. And tears purge junk out of the soul. And so I want us to be real with each other. I want us to know that you are safe in this place. If we find that people are leaving this place and prejudging, I will take control and ask you not to come back again. And I will do that. This is a safe place for all of us. We're here to learn how to set boundaries. I love what Taryn said. I want us to begin to look at this. Jason, what a great job you did in bringing this out. That this is a fence, not walls. If we ever get to the point, as Taryn was saying, that we put walls around ourselves, then we will not be able to help anybody because nobody will get into our lives. This first chapter, by the way, if you do not have this book, Boundaries, please check with Pastor Jeremiah afterwards. He's going to order some books. I don't know how much they cost. I think it's $300 or $400. But it's a great fundraiser for us, I can tell you that. No, check with, that was a joke, okay? I think I may be online. So I'm not a thief, okay? So check with Pastor Jeremiah. I don't know how much it is. $20, $10, I don't know what. Do you guys remember? $13, $17. Can I hear 20? Can I hear? All right, like $13, okay? So check with Pastor Jeremiah. I'm not going to pay for it for you unless you come and tell me you do not have the money. Then I will buy it for you, okay? The first chapter here is amazing. It goes along with some of what Jason was talking about. And you will find that in that very first chapter, there was a lady by the name of Sherry. And the bottom line in that first chapter is it's a great chapter because she goes through her entire day starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, she is helping her husband, she is helping her children, she is helping this one, she's taking care of the dog and the cat and the goldfish and whatever else. And then she gets to work and there's something else she's taking care of, and then she's something else she's taking care of, and she's saying yes to everybody that says, I need help. And her name is Sherry Jason. So she is taking care of everything and everybody that she can. She gets to work and she's doing all of her stuff, trying to, and then somebody else needs her. And then finally, at the end of the day, one of her bosses comes up to her and says, listen, I got this project. I know you'll be able to take care of this. And she says, absolutely. Realizing she has got none of her own work done. She goes home, she takes care of the kids, takes care of her husband, takes care of the goldfish, takes care of the cat, takes care of the dog. She takes care of all of that. And then about 11, I believe the book says around 11 o'clock that night, I could be wrong, but I think it's about 11 o'clock that night, she realizes she has not gotten her boss's work done that she says that she was going to get done that day. So she goes to work. And sometime early in the morning, after doing something for somebody else, she finally gets to sleep. And when she finally gets to sleep, she realizes, I have got none of my own work done all day long. Because she was not willing to say, I'm sorry, but no. What we're going to find out in the weeks to come is we're going to learn how to say no. Now, that's not no because I'm selfish. It is no because if I continue to do for you instead of getting done what I need to get done, I will no longer be somebody that you can count on because I'm too busy doing everybody else's work. There is a time to help. There is a time to pour your life into somebody, but there's also times to learn to say no. And not no with an attitude, but no because you need to become the greatest person God wants you to be so that now you can say yes to somebody else. But if you're always saying yes and never saying no, then you'll become very unproductive in being able to help somebody else. Okay? I'm telling you, I told you at the beginning, I believe it even more now. It's been a long time since I have looked so forward to the next several weeks that we're going to get together. Now, we're going to ask questions in a moment, but I would encourage you, when you leave here tonight, I would encourage you to get a hold of somebody. Some of you right now have already been thinking, if so-and-so was only here, if so-and-so was only here, this would be good for them. I would encourage you, first of all, you be the so-and-so. Okay? You be the so-and-so. Very first thing you do is look in the mirror. You can't help anybody else until first you have been helped yourself. But the moment that happens, then get a hold of so-and-so and let them know there is a place you need to come. Next time somebody says to you, I cannot believe I said yes again, you need to say, I have an answer for you. 5 o'clock Saturday nights at New Beginnings, and we can give you some help. All right? All right. First of all, have you enjoyed it so far? It's only been, 50 minutes, not even 50 minutes yet. And we are on the way to getting somewhere, and it's going to be amazing. Okay? All right, I'm going to open this up. We actually have like 13 minutes here. I'm going to open this up for questions. Anything is on the table, as long as it's not. Anything is on the table, okay? If you have a question, could I get, Sam, would you come here, please?